because you don't people please to people please others. You people please to please yourself. I think the biggest challenge for a people pleaser is to learn to sit with the discomfort of setting a boundary.
Yes.
Later in life, it becomes your prison, but when you're a child, it's your whole world.
Can you recall the last time you were fascinated by someone? What aspects of them captivated your attention?
Get people out of the bubble that they're in to be asked questions that the people in the bubble would never ask them.
I love that.
What is it like being you right now?
Everybody who's listening, watching, if you can make a reminder on your phone right now, pause this episode, ask yourself. I think today I accept that my hair looks like shit.
It's not that shit.
It's not that shit?
Medium.
Would you? Did you just say that? My hair looks medium shit. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the start of the podcast. Welcome. Leah, thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
My hair looks medium shit. Do you have anything between my teeth?
It's a good time to ask this.
No, perfect. Yeah, while we are recording. That's how we do it
I
here.
was thinking like if you asked me this like 40 minutes into it.
No, your hair. So nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, perfect. That'll be imagine 1 hour later.
I'm a good friend. I would tell you.
Did that ever happen to you? You recorded a video and then 40 minutes later you see like, oh my gosh, that happened to me once. I filmed course material the whole day. I was really like in it, and then I had a booger in my beard. No. I put it out anyways. Just swear. I just like, oh fuck it.
Did you?
I'm not.
You're like, you know what?
Whatever. Yeah. Shit happens literally. I'm not filming Hollywood movies. Pick a number.
312.
Do you know what 312 is?
I do not know actually.
Pick another number.
Pick another one.
In case you prepared.
221.
Oh, 222 would have been my favorite number.
Oh really?
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
221. Okay, let's see. I saw you doing this on your social media. Yeah. Oh, I hope. Is it okay if I open it?
Yeah. This is a semi blank one.
Okay.
And also what is in there is usually.
Because I just saw something you wrote down. Axel's hair looks samey shit. 221 right next to 222. Okay. How did your upbringing? Oh my gosh, it's my starting question.
Is it?
How did your upbringing shape your attitude towards accepting help from others? So usually my opening question is, if I would have been a fly in your head when you grew up, what would I see? So this one is, how did your upbringing shape your attitude towards accepting help from others? And that's for context reasons. That's a book, a journal. Would you call it a book or journal?
A journal.
Both. A journal that you created with a friend.
Yes.
Very beautiful cover.
Sister.
Your sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
Sister. Yeah.
Beautiful. Feels very nice.
Thanks.
Very premium. And so what's the answer? How did your upbringing shape your attitude towards accepting help from oth's?
That's amazing that is like so similar.
Very.
She's like, wait a minute. How did you know? So the answer. You want me to answer this one or yours? No, that one?
Yeah.
I became an incredibly independent person, I think. My family dynamic was very like love and then like a bit more distance and then love and then distance. So very like a bit like volatile, is that the word for it?
Yeah.
So up and down. So really loving, but then sometimes also like not at all. So that really had me shaped into a person that was immediately like, okay, great. I know what pure love looks like, but I also know how and that I need to take care of myself very quickly. So I was like, okay, I really need to like learn to be independent. And it was also, I think for a long time, really difficult for me to like accept love, not love, but like accept help from others.
Same.
Yeah, because of that. Because I was like, if I accept help, then it might be like taken away from me maybe or not. So I kind of never really knew. So that really definitely did that for me.
I think it's I can also relate because I had a very loving grandmother very, very loving. And then the rest of my family was more like the opposite, but because my grandma was one of a kind, like very loving, very caring, like 10 out of 10. And then, Russian family was more, how would I call it? Less loving. So I could really relate with what you're saying. And
yeah, it's exactly that. There's like, if you have both, right? Like, thankfully, what really warm love looks like. But then you also learn the opposite, right? You're like, okay, I really need to like learn how to be self-sufficient. And I think maybe, even though that is maybe like a negative, let's say, in quotation marks, because in that moment, it's nothing you maybe want for your child to have to do, right? But later on in life, I think that's the reason for me being really entrepreneurial, right? So it did something to me, and now it's like also something that I pull a lot of value out of because I'm really good at being entrepreneurial, right? So I'm like, okay, maybe it's something good as well.
I love what you're doing. I have to share the story of how we met, because
Sure.
it was very unique and very, very special. Because Linda, who was on my podcast, I know her. We agreed to be for a cafe. Just turns out we were neighbors. She came to Bali, and like, oh, I know that place. And I went into the cafe. You immediately. I always find it interesting. How do people perceive me when they don't know me? Like the first initial thought, like the energy, Maybe it's nice for you to hear, because I walk in, you immediately have a big smile, very welcoming, very warm. I think I told you, like very warm energy, very kind, respectful. And one of the first things I learned about you was you asking the question to Linda when you moved in together. Can you tell me about your usual triggers and what comes up regularly for you? Or what was the exact question?
So basically, like, when we were moving in with like two of our friends, basically for like 6 weeks, and we're like, okay, it's gonna be like 6 weeks. We love each other, but it's inevitable that there's gonna be some type of like collisions
Friction,
happening, right? And I've done this type of like living with people before over the course of a month, but this was with 10 people before. So my learning out of that was really like, okay, what is a question I can ask for people to already know what is gonna happen, so that when friction is there, how do we solve it? With what question can we solve it? And how do we like already know what the person already is thinking?
That is brilliant.
So basically the question is like, what are triggers that come up when you live with someone else for a prolonged amount of time?
Yeah, I told my one of my best friends about it, and he was like, "This woman is brilliant."
Thank you.
No, really, because usually we talk about how to argue in the worst moment possible, which is when you argue.
Exactly.
So it's actually a brilliant moment for everybody who's listening or watching to talk to the people that you spend the most time with and you're the closest with, to talk about what to do when you get triggered with each other.
Yeah, and already know what the triggers are, right? Because then, for example, Mel, right, she was like, well, I don't really enjoy when people tell me what to do too much, right? And the other friend, she was like, well, if there are too many like plans in the room, I feel stressed, for example, right? So then you already know. So even if there is a collision happening, you can also reduce the risk of it already, right?
What is it for you?
For me?
Yeah. I'll tell you why my answer is.
Yeah, I want to know. Because it's really interesting, right? Because these are things that you only get to know about the people when you actually spend that much time with each other.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would never know that about you unless we were like, okay, roomies for like a month, right?
Very, very true. Yeah. It's also so interesting that you get into arguments, I think I speak for most people, with the people you love the most.
Yeah.
Like you would never get with, at least me, never with a stranger into, like an argument or into even a fight with someone you don't care. So, but what is it for you? What is it? Good try, though.
Funnily enough, it's the opposite, because I'm a very like straightforward. I like to plan. I'm always like the one at every holiday who's like, oh, I want to do this. I'm really adventurous, so I really always want to do things.
Yeah.
So I like to plan things, and I'm always like almost 3 steps ahead all the time. And when we talked about this, we were like, oh, interesting, because I already saw that that's going to be a tension point in between the 3 of us, because both of them are more like chill. They just want to relax. They don't want to have too many plans. Yet we want to do things, the 3 of us, right? And I'm more of a planner.
Yeah.
So if I make too many plans, that's going to trigger them, right? If I make too much of a time schedule for us, that's also going to trigger them, right? So I was like, okay, interesting. So I need to take a step back. I need to like, okay, how do I reframe my wish of making plans and like having a time structure and having them join my activities that I want to do, right? How do I shape it into a good question so it's more like approachable for them to maybe join or maybe not, right? So with the question asked in the beginning, we were able to then be like, okay, even if there was a conflict, then I could say like, oh, Mel, I know that you might think this and this and this, and that you might be stressed because I'm putting a plan out there, but it's just a suggestion. And I know that you're stressed about it, but you don't have to join, right?
Yeah.
So then we can like talk with the knowledge already in hand. We can argue with the knowledge already in hand instead of starting from zero when the conflict is already happening. Right. So yeah.
That is why. Where does this self-awareness come from? Maybe combining it with the usual question that I ask: if I would have been a fly.
With a fly on the wall.
Yeah, if I would have been a fly in your head. If I understood it correctly, you grew up in Norway. Now you
Yes,
moved
exactly.
to Germany. If I would have been a fly in your head, pick an age that comes up to your mind. What would I see?
What we see. Yeah, still coming back to the self-sufficient girl I've been from a young age. Basically, I would always like, I would do so many things like bake and produce things and always like try and I would always try and monetize my passions.
Really?
I love to bake, for example, and I was like, okay, let's bake muffins and fucking sell them to everyone. And I would like always be like, okay, yeah, let's go. And then I would also make like, instead of just selling one muffin, I'd be like, my 5-year-old self was like, no, packages. Let's sell 3 in a bundle.
Really? I would have never thought.
I think again, it's a good thing, but also a bad thing, because I was like already so like, I love talking about money. I love talking about, like
I would have never
business and all
thought.
that. No?
No, I would have never thought.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
amazing.
just fun to me. It's a beautiful thing, because it doesn't have to be a bad thing in terms of like, if I, as a 5-year-old, find it interesting and fun to monetize my passions like that, right? And like have energy come back to me in the form of money.
Yeah,
It's not a bad thing. I was 5, like,
100%.
right?
Even
So,
when you
yeah.
what was your first was it your first entrepreneurial venture was a bakery?
I was a little mini bakery from
Mini
home.
bakery.
Yeah.
Buy 2, pay for 3.
Exactly.
My first entrepreneurial venture was being, in Germany we have this system when you collect plastic bottles and you bring it back to the supermarket to recycle, you get 25 cents.
You collected them from people?
So what I did, I grew up and we didn't have much. My parents are immigrants from Uzbekistan. My mom died very early in my life, and so it was one man, a lot of kids, and not a lot of money.
How many brothers or sisters? Yeah.
I have a big family. I have 2 from the same mother, then 1 half brother from a different mother, then 3 step siblings.
Wow.
Yeah, so big family, not a
family.
lot of money. I wouldn't say, I was still very lucky to be able to go to school in Germany and have all of the privileges you have when you grow up in Germany. But we didn't have a lot. And so at some point, when I was a kid, I hated it. But now I'm actually really grateful for it, that I had to be so self-sufficient. Nobody, it's very common that kids in Germany get like pocket money.
Yeah.
Honey, I don't know what pocket money is. I made money and I had to give it back to my family.
Yeah, very different. Very contrasted.
Very, very different. So I collected those plastic bottles, right? I went to festivals. I went to like local football matches. When people get drunk, they don't care. They just leave them there.
And you're like,
Yeah. You can make good money.
You can actually make good money.
You
And
can
when
make
you're young, it's like
good money. Tricky. I started scaling my business, my venture of collecting bottles up to the point where I was thinking, what about football stadiums? Right? Turns out there is a bit of a mafia of the homeless community. They own couple of locations, and I was like, okay, it's yours. I'm getting out of here. Yeah, I'm not gonna argue. It's also I get it. It's yours. Have it. And then I went to a different space. But how was your experience? You just did it because you had fun, or?
I just did it because I have had fun, yes. But I also think that initial drive for entrepreneurship,
Beautiful word.
yes, beautiful word, good pronunciation, came from the sense of like having to sustain myself. Not that I had to. Like my family also had like all right money, but the wish for it came because of this like up and down situation in my family. So yeah. But I thought about when you said like that you have so many sisters and brothers and like your family dynamic. Coming back to, because you didn't tell me your answer to the question of like what your triggers are. Yeah, because that interests me.
So today's episode is all about asking each other great questions. My triggers are when you would live with me. Probably that I do not want to be disturbed when I work.
Oh, are you like super focused and get?
Yeah. I'm like, when I work, let me just work. I also don't check my phone or something. Sometimes people get annoyed with that. Like I work and then I only work on the things, because otherwise it takes me forever, and then I get frustrated. So that would be something I would wanna tell you. Like when I work, don't take it personal.
Don't you dare open the door or
come in just. But I'm gonna be so focused. Don't. It's okay.
Good to know.
I have this. I once got this gift from someone who lived with me. It was basically something you could attach to your laptop, and it would have different colors: red, yellow, and green. Green means I'm open to talk. Yellow is like, I'm not so sure. And red is do not disturb. I am in deep work.
This little
yeah. And you could change the color on your laptop. That was, for example, really, really important. And I love the fact that you're bringing this up, because I don't think most people know how their significant others want to argue or what do they need in moments when it gets heated, or when they get triggered.
Exactly.
What do you need when you get triggered?
What I need when I get triggered. Oh, that's an interesting question too.
It's all about it. Maybe we'll find new questions for
there are endless in there. But yeah, what do I need when I get triggered? Depends on the trigger for sure, right? Depends on what is happening and what the situation is and who I'm talking to. But I think the readiness and openness for constructive criticism, let's say, from other people and to other people, meaning readiness for open communication and not like I'm triggered. Okay, let's just be triggered, right? Because let's just stop conversation and just like sense that the room is being filled with this like weird negative energy. And if the other person is not open to like actual constructive criticism and like having an open conversation about what is happening, I think that is that triggers me more, right? It's just not going to go anywhere, right? And I think a lot of people have that they're not open for good communication, that they are not ready to see their own faults and see how they can solve a problem that is arising with the other person, because it's not you against them, because it's you against the problem, right?
Yeah, you said something really important. It's not you against them, because I don't know how it is for you. I spoke about this with one of our coaches in my company earlier, that when we are with the people we love, sometimes when a trigger comes up and you are not aware, it feels like you are at war with them.
Exactly.
And you're like, he told me about the situation. He was like, I paused and I'm like, wait, I'm at war with the person I love the most.
Right?
What on earth is going on? And my therapist always calls it when we go limbic. When the limbic part of your brain is activated and you know you're hot heated, you say things you don't mean, and you are you don't really use your prefrontal cortex anymore. I think then it's hard to have those conversations, to actually reflect and see what can be better.
It is, but I think the more, and I think that is a huge part of it, is to like call yourself out on your own bullshit, right?
I saw.
Coming right to
You asked me earlier, Axel, what do you want to talk about in this podcast? I was like, how about this whole call yourself out on yourself, on your own bullshit part? Because I love that.
It's a really interesting thing, because I've noticed like the older I get, the more, the more fights, let's say, not fights, but like discussions I have with people. The quicker I realize my own bullshit, the easier the whole discussion like is solved, because I can like flip back into like, okay, let's think about this. Like, oh, it's not us against each other. We have just a problem that we need to solve. All right. How do we solve this? And then I can take my heat out of it. At least I can't do that for the other person, but I can try. So then I take my heat out of what I'm like, my emotion a bit. Like,
how do you do that? How it works for you?
It's the time in between, like realizing it's a time in between when a conflict arises and my reaction, and the time in between and how long that time is. I think the longer you stay in that like reactive mode and like defensive mode, the longer and the more difficult it is to solve the actual problem together. The faster I realize, and I think that the quickness of it is the solution, and how to realize that that is the actual problem is the reactiveness. How quickly can you realize that?
Yeah.
Right.
How fast can you snap out of it?
Is that a question?
No. It was more like it's about how fast you can.
And that's the thing, right? With some people, I'm really quick at like realizing, oh, this is just like a discussion we're having. No worries. Let me take my heat out of the situation and let's just talk constructively. And here I'm realizing, like, I can then also say, like, oh, I think we're fighting, right? I don't want to do that. But as soon as you acknowledge what is happening also, that's when you also take the heat out of it. But you need to realize that quickly. And the quicker you realize, the easier it is to solve it, because then I can like actually open for good communication instead of just like this nagging and dragging and heat coming out of me and the other person. Right?
Is it what would be your ideal case of let's say this moment would happen between you and a romantic partner? And you just notice, okay, I'm getting triggered, I'm getting irritated, the other person as well. Right now we are both limbic. We're fighting, right?
Yeah.
It comes to your awareness like, oh, we're fighting. How would you then, best case, ideally, resolve and go back to essence?
I think is with especially like partners or good friends. Like, this is not applicable to maybe strangers, right? Because you don't know the person well, and you also don't have the maybe wish to do that. But for people that you know well and that you care about having a good relationship with,
Yeah.
I think the problem solving of a conflict comes when you're not in conflict.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the question we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Before we actually move in together,
Yeah.
let's ask ourselves this question. So same with like a life partner. Before we actually get into fights, what are our triggers in fights? Or what do you not like about me when I am discussing with you? Am I too harsh with you? Am I not giving you enough space to discuss with me?
Yeah.
Am I not asking you the right questions? Do you maybe not like that I am very provocative, for example, when we're fighting? Like, I'm just like trying to like fire up the heat more, like in that way. Like, how do you like to discuss is also an interesting thing. Because, for example, with me and my sister, while we were creating this journal together, it took us 1.5 years to create, which is a long time. And you really need to get into a, how do you balance the dynamic between being sisters and being business partners, right? And that is a huge learning curve. We had so many discussions, and we really had to get to know each other in the way of like, how do we like to solve conflict? We're still not the best at it, but the learning curve was for sure there. And I think that's exactly it. To learn how to resolve conflict while you're not in the heat of conflict.
Yeah.
Because then I can, while I am in conflict, use the knowledge that I have gained about my sister or about my partner, for example. Oh, I know, for example, my sister really likes when I have my arguments very clear and like put very clearly so she understands my pain points. And she, for example, from my side, likes that I give her more space, for example, to actually sit with the topic at hand and not have to solve it immediately, right? People have very different ways of communications styles, and especially when we're little children in a conflict, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. What I love is the fact that you talk about it beforehand, because then if I think about my own personal life and what I found out or what I would add to the table in any dynamic is when we get triggered with each other, I would like to respectfully leave the space for, let's agree on a time when we come together, or let's agree on a time when both are ready to come together. Because right now we've reached the point we are both not saying the thing, like we are both limbic.
Yeah.
And that was something beautiful I learned. Like with some people, I have this sign when or you have this sign and you give each other a hug and then you talk about it. Because I have moments when I'm like right now, there's no point in talking about it.
No point in solving it.
No point in solving about it.
That's a huge realization, though, because that's in that way you can also like just offer a huge important thing is also realizing this stuff about yourself, because then you can offer that knowledge to the people around you, right? Because how would they know how you like to discuss? How would they know how you like to resolve a problem?
Yeah, and you can't expect that from others. And I like the definition of a trigger. A trigger is an unmet expectation. And so many times we have the most ridiculous expectations for others and for ourselves, but the other person doesn't even know about it. So I remember a person who had the expectation that everybody, when you come home, there was like a ritual for that person during her childhood, that when you enter the door, you come immediately and you say hi.
Oh.
Right? But that didn't work for me because, I have my green light on. I'm working. I'm not being disturbed. So I got triggered by that and she got triggered by that, and then we're all triggered.
Yeah.
Okay, but I never knew about that expectation. For me, it's like, well, you come home, you take I even like it when I come home, I take the time, I take the space. And for someone else, The complete opposite.
Exactly. And
So
it's so wild.
it is
crazy.
insane. It is insane. So knowing about those conversations, and actually, I don't know if there's any question in your book about those expectations. Is there?
There are.
Because I have a
Plenty.
really good question that one of my best friends, Lucas, we spoke about him because his birthday is one day before my birthday.
Yes.
Remember?
We have like very aligned birthdays, all in the same 3 days or something.
Yeah. Yours
Like
is 20th?
23rd.
23rd. So his is 21st, mine is 22nd of May, and
Yeah.
yours is 23rd.
That's really funny.
And one question that we like to ask each other as men is, where in your life are you still a chihuahua?
Oh. So in terms of like, where are you still like a little pineapple?
Insecure, immature? Yeah, chihuahua is more... Do you know Jenny Denovi?
No.
She creates amazing content. I'm sure you've seen some of her videos. And I picked it up. She said it in her story at some point. I don't know what the exact framing was, but for me, a chihuahua is more like immature. An immature. Where are you still an immature person? I have nothing against chihuahuas. For everybody here who owns or like who has a chihuahua at home, I'm deeply sorry. For every chihuahua who's watching, I love you. You're very cute. Chihuahuas are cute, but it's more like, where's the bullshit in your personality? Where are you still bullshitting yourself? Where are you still immature? And I could, sit here for the next 5 days and just talk about where I am a chihuahua.
Where are you a chihuahua?
I'm gonna ask you. Where am I a chihuahua? Yeah. Oh my gosh. I am a chihuahua I think mostly in relationships. Still have so many chihuahua traits. I get
Chihuahua traits.
you ask me. It's very interesting. You ask me good questions.
I mean, that was your question.
Yeah.
You're just complimenting yourself.
I would say I get offended easily, but especially by people who I love a lot. So I think my chihuahua trait is still sensitivity towards. By the way, I'm cramping in my right ab right now, so I'm stretching.
Is it the paddle?
Yeah, I just played paddle for 2 hours. Usually I play at 1.5, but that is another chihuahua trait. I'm not the most organized person.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't seem.
I don't seem
that
like
way.
it.
No, you seem structured.
I'm structured in my head, but not in my schedule sometimes.
Oh, fair.
And also, that is a chihuahua trait as well. Being a bit disorganized with certain things. If you would see my suitcase when I pack it myself.
Is it just all
Not good.
thrown
Bit
in there?
messy. Yeah, really.
Oh, you're that kind of person?
Yeah.
I would see you fold shit and like.
No,
put it
I don't fold shit.
perfectly.
I'm so laser focused with a couple of things. Like I would not slack on work related stuff, on client things, but on clothes, mamma mia, 100%. So that's where I'm a chihuahua.
How do you deal with your chihuahuaness then?
I talk about it, like right
Yeah.
now with you. I accept that as part of me, and I
Right.
work on it. I bring just bringing awareness to it helps, and telling others, especially the people close to me.
No, that's good.
One
'Cause
of the
that's exactly that.
most healing conversations are when I'm like, I am so sorry. Like I know this trait about me. I'm working on it. Where I'm not a chihuahua is apologizing and acknowledging.
That's good.
And owning, like afterwards saying like, oh my gosh, I'm so full of mistakes.
So sorry.
I'm so sorry I did that. That is something that I'm quite okay with.
That's a really good thing because a lot of people don't acknowledge or accept their chihuahuaness, right? They don't accept their own faults and their own like weak spots.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, because we're shameful about it, right? We're shameful about like, oh, I'm not this perfect human that I think everyone expects me to be, right?
But if I make weird looks, that's because I'm cramping.
You're like, I
Do
can't
you
even drink
have a cramp in your ab?
I don't have.
You don't have abs?
I don't have abs, so I can't talk for it.
I think I never had a cramp in a podcast setting ever before, and I'm not gonna pick
Take
it
a
up.
good stretch. Just do
Yeah.
a little stretch break.
Do you stretch a lot?
I do stretch a lot.
That's where I'm a
Yeah.
Chihuahua as well.
You're not a
I should.
stretcher.
No, I
You really
stretch
should.
after workouts and stuff, but after the paddle match, I should have stretched.
Paddle doesn't seem. You know, there's some sports that don't seem like you need to stretch after. I feel like paddle is a non-stretch sport.
I burn around 1,000 calories.
Yeah, but which means you should actually
Yeah, I know you
stretch
should.
a
No,
bit.
definitely you should stretch. But so much about me. Where are you in Chihuahua? What's
Am
the
I a
female?
Chihuahua?
Maybe we can find a female version for Chihuahuaness.
Where am I a Chihuahua? I think I'm a Chihuahua in terms of communicating my boundaries. I think I've become much better at it this year, but communicating my boundaries has been a huge thing because what usually happens is like, okay, I don't communicate my boundaries, so people overstep them. And then I get mad or triggered about them overstepping the boundary that they did not know existed. Right? So that's on me, right? That's not on them overstepping the boundary. That's just me not telling them that it actually existed.
Oh yeah.
Right? Which is, yeah, perfect example of Chihuahuaness because I'm like, well, if I don't walk through the world telling people my needs,
How would they know?
how would they know, right?
Yeah, I have a. Yeah, I can relate. I can relate. I have. It might be a cultural thing. Might be a Chihuahua trait for me. I have this. Just talked about it with a female friend because it recently came up. I don't know how it is in your culture, but there are some cultures where women give you kisses on the cheeks, right? And for some reason there was I haven't noticed that in for a long time. And then there are a couple of people who came in my life who gave me, I barely knew them, and they kissed me on the cheeks. And I didn't communicate it, but it like I was not comfortable with it, right?
Yeah, fair.
And it happened a couple times, but I was a Chihuahua because I didn't communicate it right away because I didn't want to offend that person. So I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes we just don't communicate those
Yeah,
the things that trigger us.
Yeah, and I think that very much comes from like me being a huge people pleaser my whole life, and that slowly changing, right? Me taking back those boundaries and setting them, but it's so uncomfortable for me to set boundaries because if I set boundaries, my immediate reaction in my body is that I feel a lot of discomfort setting boundaries because I feel unsafe if people are not happy with me, right? And like setting a boundary in my head, I'm like, people will not be happy with me when I set a boundary. Right?
I have a really good question for you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Tony Robbins asked us this question at his event Date with Destiny. Whose love did you crave most as a child? And how did you have to be in order to get that love and respect from that person?
Well,
That's a very deep question. So everybody who's listening, everybody who's watching, ask yourself. Get maybe a pen, get a piece of paper. I assume you're a big fan of journaling, right?
I am.
So am I. I love to get the things out of my head onto paper. Ask yourself, whose love did you crave most? Whose attention did you crave, did you want most as a child? And who did you have to be in order to get that love? Because most of our caregivers, they had an idea of who we should be and how we should be. They had their own idea of what a good person is. And sometimes it's not about whether your parents or your caregivers loved you or not. It's about who you had to be for them to get love. Because sometimes, I give you a personal example, my grandma, I loved her. We had an amazing relationship. She always wanted me to be, I remember how she said, Axel, can you just sit quiet? It feels like you always have, in German we have this saying, it basically describes people who have, we say bees in your butt. Like always moving, always,
Yeah.
out and never silent. So she would always want me to be silent, chill. And I decoded that at some point. I'm not a silent person. Like that is not, if you really know my heart, my core, I'm very playful. I sing, I jump, I go for things, I play. But for a long time of my life, I acted like that because I wanted the love of a caregiver, right? So if you don't mind sharing, how was it for you?
Yeah, for sure, my parents. I think that's the answer for a lot of people.
Yeah, but which parent?
My dad.
Yeah, that.
Because for my mom, it was really easy. It was always there. And for my father, it was also, when it was there, it was very there. He's incredibly loving. And like most parents, they try their best and they're also parents for the first time, right? So they don't know. But it was very like up and down. So very loving. And then suddenly the love was kind of withdrawn in moments, right? So I think for me, it was always like I needed to like read the room and understand how to cater to these like up and down situations and moments, to understand how to, with my energy, equalize the energy in the room.
Yes.
So I was super people pleasing, right? I really put so much energy into like neutralizing a situation or creating a positive situation, because if not, I wouldn't feel like safe in my own like expression. So that is very much the person I became, right? I became a people pleaser because I kind of had to like neutralize situations or like to just comfort people. Like it was not so much about me, it was more about.
Was that also the, if you don't mind me asking, I'm going to ask anyways, but you can choose to not answer.
Yeah, sure.
I always, when people ask me like, can I ask you a deep question? I'm like, you can ask me anything, but I'm not sure if I'm going to answer.
Right.
You can ask me for my credit card number. I'm not going to give it to you, but you can ask. Who's so if you say your father, what was his idea? I'm just trying to also for people to understand the patterns we create based on that. How did you have to be to? What was his idea of the perfect child?
Oh, I think the difficulty there is maybe like if you don't know what your wish is yourself, you're not good at communicating it. So you just base your wishes of what the perfect child is on your own patterns that you know from your own growing up, right? You just replicate what you know from your own mom. And I think from his mom, it was very like, okay, you have to be this very hardworking, diligent, very, is appeasing the right word?
Pleasing?
Yeah, like, yeah, just appeasing. Is appeasing a word for that? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But like very acknowledging of their wants and having to do what they want, basically. So if you don't do what they want, do what they need in that situation, you're immediately like, not catering to basically like having a child and then expecting the child to do everything you say instead of letting the child do what the child is evolving to become.
Yeah. If you can't go on a holiday because your entire business would collapse, you don't have a business, you have a job. And what you need is evergreen products. What you need are certain structures. So I created an entire training that teaches you how you can change that. How you can become a business owner, not a business operator. How you can create automated income. You need structure, you need strategy. I know what it's like to be in this pain. I know what it's like to have to work all the freaking time, never being able to go on a holiday. I found a way out of it. I shared it with my clients. We know it's working. It's a proven strategy. You get access to it. Click on that link, join the training. It's completely free of charge and it might completely change your life. So take advantage now. I think it's very natural that we like people who are like ourselves.
Yeah.
So whenever someone is not like how we think it should be, then it's a little uncomfortable and we project.
Yeah. But I think it's a very interesting question because a lot of people, I mean, the question of like whose love
Did you
did
crave
you crave?
most? Yeah.
Because that is, yeah, the biggest teller of why a person is who,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way they
Yeah.
are, especially in like romantic relationships, right? If you put that into romantic relationships, why are you, I don't know, if you take the typical like avoidant or more like anxious
Yeah.
attachment style, right? That is exactly where that comes
Yeah.
from the love you tried to get when you were younger.
Yeah. Oh, I just became aware of something that where I'm a Chihuahua is when I have a trigger with someone, there is this initial response of, you know what, I'm just like, it's a voice, it's a thought. I do a lot of work on myself, but there is sometimes this thought like, just screw them, I'm better off myself, not just, I'm better off myself, just do it by yourself. That is just a pattern from literally how you just described it, from my upbringing, how I would deal with it as a child. But the same walls that used to protect us then imprison us. As a child, it was amazing when I had I grew up with in an abusive environment. It wasn't safe to say like, "Hey, this is not what I like." I don't appreciate that.
Exactly.
Right? It was really helpful to detach from the moment, from the situation. Good as a child, but then if you're not in that environment anymore, the same walls that used to protect me are now the prison, the cage, the golden cage.
Yeah.
That's why I think work like this is so important. To call yourself out on your own bullshit and let others know, especially the people who love you, so they can help you
Exactly.
and you can help them.
Yeah. And I think like taking it further, right? Because when you grow up, like you said, it's later in life it becomes your prison, but when you're a child, it's your whole world, right? Because that's the only thing you know, so you adapt to the world you live in. And same thing, I think, with the bubbles we are in then when we are older, right? That's your whole world, that's your environment. And then you're stuck in that, or let's say stuck, you choose to be in the bubble you're in, right? And even if you leave the bubble you're in, you go to a new bubble when you grow out of it. But the people you surround yourself with are going to shape your world. And the people you surround yourself with, if they are not open for good communication, or if they're not critical thinkers, or if they don't ask good questions, then you live in this bubble where you're limited to the world that they are co-creating with you. Right. So I think that's also my reasoning for creating that book is how do I get people out of the bubble that they're in to be asked questions that the people in the bubble would never ask them.
I love that.
Yeah, because also like I think people like you and me, you do coaching, I work in also like a mental health space online, right? We're very aware, and the reason for us being in that circle, in that bubble, is because we ask ourselves a lot of questions.
Yeah, we ask
We think a
ourselves
lot.
questions all the
All the
time.
time. Maybe too much, right?
Yeah, but even we need, that is one of the foundations of my coaching. That's why one of the reasons why I relate with you resonate with you so much. We ask ourselves questions all the time. Even when I'm saying this, you are asking yourself a question, which is that German guy with his heavy accent saying the truth? Question mark.
Yeah.
So, but that is often on a very subconscious level. You wake up, you ask a question. For most people, it would be, what are the things that I don't want to do today?
Yeah.
What are the meetings that I don't want to attend? As a kid, I always ask myself, what are the teachers that I have today? Did I do my homework? What are potential threats, basically, that could ruin my day? Who could bully me? And that is like subconscious level. So asking yourself intelligent questions is very, very very helpful and can change your entire life. Because if you ask yourself similar questions every single day, at some point it is your subconscious mind, it's your autopilot, right?
Exactly.
And so if you ask yourself thoughtfully, better questions, you get better answers.
Yeah.
So I love.
Thanks. Yeah. But I think that's exactly the thing. We can wish for ourselves to ask ourselves intelligent questions. And I think I have periods where I ask myself really intelligent questions, and then I have periods and months where I'm like, no, I'm a bit dumb recently, or which is okay.
I'm a little dumb recently. Yeah.
Which is so fine also. But when you think about people in groups of people who don't care to ask themselves questions at all, right? They stay in a very passive environment their whole life.
Yeah.
I don't know, some like rural random town in some country, for example, right? You're very stuck with the people
we can choose Germany if you want.
Germany, right? A very rural town in Germany where it's very like
That's the place where I'm from.
Where?
Weze.
Weze?
You speak German, right?
Yeah,
of course you speak German. You know Weze? Like the toilet? Weze?
Oh, Weze.
Yeah.
It's called Weze.
No, it's called it's called Weze.
Weze, but it sounds like
It sounds like Weze.
It sounds like toilet,
right? By the way, everybody from Weze, I love you.
Amazing. So, for example, you grow up there, right? You never leave the town. You never grow out of the people who always the only thing they do is like for fun is drink and maybe, I don't know, gossip about each other, right? And
Yeah,
the same,
very common.
right? Very common.
Going to the pub. We have plenty of pubs.
Do you have what?
Pubs. Kneipen.
Oh, pubs. Yes, Kneipen. Which, right, can be fun. Is great. Is fun. But you maybe don't realize that you're in that type of environment even because you're living so passively. So, but in a moment where you're like, maybe like, oh, let's maybe ask myself some questions. And then you try and talk to the other people around you about these more deep questions and you see no resonance. No, people are not ready for that, right? They're not ready for these conversations. So that can feel incredibly alienating because you're like, well, am I the only one who's like thinking about these things? And am I the only one wanting to ask deep questions and wanting to have deep conversations? And that's, I think, where like journaling comes in as a really, really good tool to like have these conversations with yourself.
Yeah.
And then also like, right, having a book like Daily Deep, for example, ask you the questions. So you also see that there are questions that are really deep, really important, really necessary for your own evolution, but you don't get that in the group of people that you're in.
If you could just ask yourself 2 questions per day.
2 questions per day.
Yeah, you could just ask yourself 2 questions per day. What would it be? So yesterday, what I did, really happened. I have this thing already for a long time. I have Post-its as reminders to ask me questions. So usually they're in my bathroom where I brush my teeth. So I see those questions. One of them being who loves me?
Who loves you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what do you want? I think it's one of the most brilliant and important questions. What do you want?
What do you want? Good.
So yesterday I added 3 questions to my water dispenser. Because in my water dispenser, I have a bit of time to check in. How's my day going? Because I need to wait.
You have a couple of seconds.
You wait,
fill the bottle.
You fill up the bottle and you wait. And I have those Post-its there reminding me of a couple of things. So imagine you could add 2 or 3 questions to your water dispenser.
To my water dispenser, right. I think my favorite... Yeah?
Yeah, go for it.
My favorite question, and it's also the first one in the book for a reason. Open it, read it. Not that one. But
what is being right?
Yeah, no.
No.
What is it? No, it's that one, but it's
What?
read all in one, right?
Yeah.
No, the one you were at? Yeah. What is it like being you right now?
What is it like being you right now?
Yes. It's a question on 2 pages. That's why.
Okay,
It's
got it.
confusing.
Got it.
But what is it like being you right now? And it's a very, very simple question.
Yeah.
But it allows me to create space in between, like, what am I, like, what story am I creating in my head about myself?
Yes.
And then am I choosing to believe that story that I'm creating for myself? Because it's really easy for me to create a narrative about my day or about my human experience at that moment, and then choose to believe it regardless, right?
Yeah.
And then ask myself, is this true? And what do I want to do about it? Is what I'm telling myself bullshit? Or is it true? And then second question is a simple again, just what do I need today to either confirm or to not confirm the story I'm creating about myself?
What is it I need today?
What is it that, what is it that I need today, basically? As a follow-up question to what is it like being you in this moment? Yeah.
Beautiful. How about everybody who's listening, watching? If you create, so everybody here has smartphones, right? And I always say a smartphone is a great servant, but a terrible master. If you let your smartphone dictate your life, if you're reactive to your smartphone, you become addicted to your smartphone. And so you can also use it as a tool. And I love having this reminder on my phone a couple times per day with a good question, right? Like for me, for example, it's really good to ask myself, who loves you? Because then I know it doesn't matter how I screw up, what mistakes I do today, how my hair looks in this podcast interview, me being without, any gel or makeup or whatever. I never use makeup. But anyways, the people will still love me. My grandma will still love me. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter that I just lost this paddle match. It's irrelevant. She loves me the way I am, right? So I don't have to do anything to be enough. That's my personal favorite. But everybody who's listening, watching, if you can make a reminder on your phone right now, pause this episode, ask yourself, what question do I need? What question would I like to be reminded of a couple times per day? You just mentioned yours. I mentioned mine, but that'd be very intelligent, very powerful.
For sure.
To ask yourself. Can I pick a number?
Yes, pick one.
I love this experience. Yeah, it's very different from how my episodes are usual, but
that is fun.
Okay.
He has 365 questions to choose from. So
okay, I picked 22. It's my favorite number. Yeah.
Right.
If you were to be a mentor for someone, what topic could you provide guidance on? So if you were to be a mentor for someone, what topic could you provide guidance on? I'm gonna ask you.
Oh, me?
Yeah. And everybody listening, ask yourself. Beautiful question.
Well, I think mine would definitely be how to break out of a people-pleasing mindset, and in what way to do that. And for sure also how to be your most authentic self through breaking away from people pleasing.
I guess we have the topic for the next 25 minutes here, people pleasing, because I think it's big for people. I am for mentor for a lot of people, and I think actually, you know what? What I'm really good at is asking good questions.
Yeah.
Because in my coaching, most of the time, I'm just asking questions. And I believe that people have the answers already within themselves. And I'm not going to come and tell you what to do. You already know what to do. I'm just going to guide you into the direction where you are connected to your heart. And then you already know the answers. You already know what to do. Sometimes we're just stuck in a certain state.
Exactly.
And stuck in a certain story, and you just need someone who can, shake you and awake you so that you stop telling yourself this same old bullshit.
Exactly. That's the thing. And you can see it from a more objective point of view and just like poke where the poking is poking.
Yeah. And also shift focus. And I think I would call me when shit hits the fan. I think that those are like...
That says a lot about you.
Because the shit I've been through in my childhood enabled me. That was my gift. I always also believe that the shit from your childhood, the problems, they turn you into, they are gifts. And you said earlier something that I developed as well, when you need to read a room. You know, you kind of like, I grew up with a lot of alcoholics around me, and you would never know when they snap.
Yeah.
Everything is like funny, and then boom, one thing happens, and it's like, so I always had to read the moment, the room, emotions, facial expressions. So that made me became very aware of the state of a person. That now in my life, that is a gift. You know, like a person comes up, turns the camera on, I already know the state they're in just because of my childhood and the sensitivity towards people. So I know what to give, what to provide. That is a superpower. And you said you are an expert when it comes to people pleasing. You could mentor. So if someone is listening, someone is watching, and has this habit of trying to please and not listening to your own voice, I have that for sure in my life sometimes, still sometimes, when I do something and actually my whole heart earlier said, don't do it. Don't do it. But then maybe you can help me. Then I don't want to disappoint. I don't want to hurt. I don't want to, if I go really deep, I don't want to, I think I'm not enough if I please myself.
Exactly. Because you don't people please to people please others. You people please to please yourself. Because why do we people please? Right? We people please because if we think that if we don't please others, we are unsafe. Right? And for example, you growing up in an unstable environment where people could snap at any given moment, you would try and please others so much so that you would know that they are happy and that they're in a neutral or positive state so that nothing could happen to you.
Wow.
Right? And that's the reason for people pleasing. It's not because, I mean, I wouldn't say it's not out of a good heart. You know, we do things for others all the time. But people pleasing is not doing good things for others because we just want to be altruistic. It's because we want to be safe. Right? And I think that's the biggest misconception about people pleasing. It's just this thing of like, oh, I just want to help others, give people the greatest time and all, and forget about myself in the process. But we're forgetting about ourselves in the process because in forgetting about ourselves in the process, we stay safe because we don't have wishes that other people need to comply to. We don't have boundaries, right?
How's that hurting us? How's that hurting me?
Well, I mean, you're not setting your own boundaries, right? If you're people pleasing others, you're not, you're staying safe, which is a good thing, right? It helped you when you were little. Everyone was happy. You were also happy because you were safe. But then later in life, like we said, that pattern becomes your prison. And when you're older, if you're not setting your boundaries, if you're only pleasing others to stay safe, you stay in your comfort zone and you are not setting boundaries because now that you're older, you have new needs, right? Your needs are to be seen, to be heard, to have your own comforts, like to be validated. And if you're not setting boundaries and if you're not actually going towards that discomfort of setting those boundaries, that is going to hurt you because you're not going to get your needs fulfilled at all. You're just going to be, driven over. And I think the reframing that we have to do is to understand that the people we surround ourselves with now in our grown-up lives are good people and loving people and grown-up people, and they see you on the same level, right? You're not the child anymore. So you can set those boundaries, and you also know that if you set those boundaries with people you love, that they will most likely also respect those boundaries. And if they don't, well, then you know that they maybe are not your people, right? But it's just that learning to, I think the biggest challenge for a people pleaser is to learn to sit with the discomfort
Yes.
of setting a boundary.
Yes.
And it's wildly so scary.
So scary. Yeah, so scary to actually
wild.
say,
Yeah.
this is how I feel right now. And then to talk. I know I can. I know we can. There are settings at a retreat where you are so vulnerable, right? Say really like, I'm scared to tell you this. This is really how I feel right now. I don't want to be kissed on the cheek. Can you please has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
Let's do a hug.
Let's do a hug. Yeah. Or you know what? Let's do this. Yeah, but it's so scary. And I think I gave myself the answer. I think the way out of it is actually talking about your own experience without blaming the other, without judging the other, but really, how is it for you?
Exactly.
How is it for you? Let's do another number. I'm having a lot of fun. Okay, I feel like I feel it's actually something. I'm in love with things that people can actually do right after the podcast episode. Practical things, because so many things we talk about here are about mindset, behavioral patterns, and a lot
is mental,
insight. But journaling is actually something that changed my life, changed your life, that you in a positive way, that you can do every single day.
Yeah.
It's absolutely for free. Everybody can do it. And I'm like, why wouldn't you write down the things? I believe everybody should have a list with 10 things they still want to do in life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
10 things I would love to do in my life. And have a bit of fun with it. When you achieve one thing, as soon as you land at that place where you wanted to be, I arrived, I want to go to Bali. Blip. The moment you land, you're like, suck. I think it's so important and so helpful. That's why I love journals. That's why I love asking myself questions. So
it's a huge thing, and especially even if you don't have a journal like this, right, where there's a question every day that gives you space to reflect on different things that you might not think about. Even if you just have a blank page in front of you, right? To just learn how to have a conversation with yourself and then to see it objectively while you read it again. Oh, it's so powerful.
Yes.
Because you're just like, that's my thought pattern. Like, are you kidding? I'm such an asshole to myself, for example, right?
Yeah.
Which question did you pick?
I picked 27. Is the favorite number of one of my favorite people in the whole world.
All right.
I love her dearly. It's actually 2 questions. Can you recall the last time you were fascinated by someone? What aspects of them captivated your attention? What a beautiful question. Can you recall the last time you were fascinated by someone? What aspects of them captivated your attention? Yes. Yeah. What is it for you?
The first thing that pops into my head, which is an interesting situation for me, was with, I think that's a year ago or something, when I was still together with my now ex-boyfriend. And there was a situation where we invited a friend of his to stay at our apartment. We lived together we have 4 roommates as well. So we all lived together, and she just came and she was like, hi guys, because she had to travel from Egypt. And I don't think I have told her this even, because she's now a dear friend of mine. But the story of how we got to know each other.
What's her name?
Amira.
Amira?
Amira,
okay.
Yeah. And the story of how we got to know each other is very interesting it's through my ex-boyfriend at the time. And I remember I saw her for the first time and I was like, oh, interesting, because it was the first time I felt jealousy. And I think jealousy is a very interesting emotion, because you can either allow jealousy to take the lead, just be like, I'm jealous, right? Or you can see jealousy as a reflection of why you're intrigued by this person, right? I saw her and I was like, oh, I feel jealousy. Then I was like, okay, why do I feel jealousy when I look at this person? Well, first thing you might say is like, oh, I think I feel threatened, right? And then I'm like, okay, cool, sure. I don't believe that. I trust my partner, right? I trust my partner that nothing's gonna happen. So that's out of the window, whatever, right? That's just my insecurity.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, let's look at it deeper though. Like, what are the traits in this person, in Amira, that I value so much, that makes me think that she could actually threaten me in some way, right? And then I was like, well, she has an incredible confidence. She really knows what she wants. She's just her center is she's centered, which is a wonderful quality, right? She seems unshakable in the way that she goes through the world. And I was like, wow. And then to ask yourself the question of like, well, okay, I can choose to be threatened by her, or I can choose to get to know her and understand how to get those qualities myself. Because apparently these things are admirable to me, right? So,
wow.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of strength.
Yeah, but also like so fun, because jealousy, I think if you're jealous of your partner, let's say, and then you're jealous of your partner because you think the partner would actually do something, right? But I trusted my partner. So I knew that the jealousy was completely me, right? It came from me, came from my insecurity. And to see a person then that I'm fascinated by and choose to like actually, let's use that jealousy. Let's understand it. Let's see what I can how can I benefit from my own, like, it's almost like the jealousy is like a direction, like a little
Yes.
North Star
Yes.
that shows you what you currently are not, but maybe want to be.
Yeah, and you
Right.
also ask yourself, what's my part in this? Because you could have also very easily said, listen, I don't like her. She is this and that.
Right.
And like, I don't like her to be in this
No.
space and blah, 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 blah. But you
Yeah.
actually took self-responsibility and you asked yourself, like, what is my part in all of this? Why am I feeling this way? You could have easily demonized her and probably, she would be out of the picture. So that's really beautiful. It takes a lot of strength.
Yeah. I think, like, for example, for you, right? Like, when is the last time you felt jealous of someone? But then what did you do with that jealousy, right?
When did I feel jealous? I first want to say, when did the same question for me, because I just told fascinated by someone.
Yeah, good
I was
point.
fascinated. I was on a birthday trip recently, last couple of days. And I was fascinated by Jess. It was her birthday because we were in a group and she was about to say something that I told her. And she checked it while she was speaking. She checked in with me and said, "Axel, are you okay with me sharing this?" And I was like, "This is why I like you so much, because you are thoughtful. You consider my well-being. It's like that. I was very fascinated by that skill of empathy. I think she was empathetic. That I was so fascinated by it. Just that tiny bit meant so much to me, because I know she doesn't just think about herself. She also thinks about, how am I feeling in this dynamic? How do I feel? And I was like, wow, this is that's what gives me the feeling that I can trust someone. If I have that on my checklist, this empathy, this awareness for how does the other person feel in this, I feel like there are no walls. They're like, I feel for you. I trust you. So yeah, that was a really good question. When was I jealous the last time? Phew, it's been a minute.
I think jealousy, don't see it as like this negative thing almost, right? Jealousy can also be admiration that you want for yourself, maybe. All right.
Wow, that's a very good question. Would I feel jealous the last time? I caught my one moment that came up was when I went to an event of someone I look up to, and I saw how far this person is, and I was like, compared to that, my events are a shit show. Okay. You know, like there are 12,000 people in this room, and they somehow manage that everybody gets food and everybody you can go to the toilet, and, we have events with like 50 people, and we struggle sometimes. I'm sure they struggle as well, but I remember catching myself thinking that thought. I was like, maybe that's a bit disempowering, and maybe you forget about the fact that person has been around for 4 decades, so give yourself a bit of time. And it doesn't even matter. I don't even know if I want to do this with 10,000 people. I don't know, maybe for the rest of my life I do it with smaller groups. So there was a moment where I felt
jealous.
That, yeah, a bit of jealousy, like, yeah,
catching yourself in the feeling of jealousy and then choosing to dissect it instead of stay in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, like, I asked myself, what did I learn from what can I learn from this?
What are you seeing in this person?
Yeah.
That makes you jealous of them, and how can you use that to redirect your own path?
Beautiful question. Beautiful question. I have a really good question for you.
Give it to me.
Whose heart have you broken?
Oh. Whose heart have you broken?
When did you break someone else's heart? It doesn't have to be a romantic partner, by the way. Good question for everybody listening, watching. Don't just listen. Don't just be a listener. Be a participant. Whose heart did you break, and how?
Heart did you break? I'm unsure if I have well, definitely an ex-boyfriend. Yeah. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I think when it comes to breaking hearts in terms of platonic relationships, I don't feel like I have. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, people I know, but I think heartbreak is a bigger thing than just I feel taken aback, or I feel like that was an ouchie comment or something like that, right? Oh, I'm unsure how to answer that, to be fair.
Did I ask you such a good question?
No, I think I think the answer is, it's just this ex-boyfriend of mine that wasn't seeing a breakup coming his way. And I think that what I learned from that is to communicate better, even though I feel like I have said everything I needed to say, is to check in with the other person and see if they have actually understood what I said. Because people have different ways of giving and receiving love. And if you do not understand how the other person wants to receive love, then you have done a wrong in your communication, because then I have been self-centered and given love the way I want to give love and not thought about how the other person wants to receive it.
Yes.
And in that same way, I communicated in the way that I wanted to communicate, but didn't understand how he wanted to be communicated with. So I think we just passed each other. It was like a parallel communication. We did communicate, but
yes,
yeah, that's when I broke someone's heart.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it brings up empathy, because we are I don't know how it is for you, but I'm for sure guilty of calling out other people's bullshit. But let's also when we do something, everybody messes up.
Yes.
You do, I do. I enjoy this conversation so much because it's not pretentious. I also acknowledge you for being so vulnerable and open to talk about your flaws. And I know you do it on your social media profile in front of people. I don't think many people understand. Thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people are watching you talking about your deepest insecurities, about your shit. Of course, some people just want to show their highlight reels. It takes courage to do that, and I love doing that. I know there's so many people running around, coaches and people with a massive personal brands. I think they need to act in a certain way to be liked, and what I see online is actually very beautiful. Authenticity and being vulnerable, that's like the new currency.
For sure.
Also just showing when I tell people, hey, right now I feel like this, I feel overwhelmed, I feel frustrated by something that is such a tiny freaking fly, and I feel stupid about the fact that this irritated me, and I feel like a beginner. People, they're like, thank you, Axel, because I don't feel like I'm an idiot now, or like I feel like I'm not alone with my things. So
Yeah.
so grateful you brought this up, and I broke hearts for sure.
Which hearts did you break?
Huh? Whose heart did I break? I think about connections that didn't mean, or like when I didn't develop feelings, but the other person developed feelings,
Oh, classic.
and not being so aware of that. Because I was like, how did that even happen so quickly? I think I broke someone else's heart in that moment. Not just being aware, and not really listening to what they said, and just yeah. In that moment, that came up for sure. What is the best question that I could possibly ask you? What is the first thought that comes up? I mean, you've spent so much time with questions.
What is the best question?
What is the best question that I could ask you in this interview for people to get the most amount of value, and the most amount of change?
That's a
Big question.
yeah. You're asking me to create a big question.
What is the first question that would, if I would put a microphone to your heart, what would your heart say?
I think I go immediately to a question that actually, I think, partially made my career even.
Ooh.
Yeah, it had like 16 million views, like, which is
Ah,
like
okay.
massive. I go to that question because I think in the moment I created it, I didn't realize that it was going to make such an impact. But the question goes something like this: if you had to introduce yourself to me, if you weren't allowed to talk about your hobbies, where you're from, what your job is, what you're doing for a living, where you're from, what your ethnicity is, what your country is that you live in,
Yes.
all these things, all these things that are superficial and like are tags that we put on people nowadays to try and like categorize.
Yes.
Axel, for example.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
If you were to introduce yourself to me without using any of these markers, how would you do that?
Okay, let's do it live. I'll do it with you. Can you repeat the question so I remember all of it, and everybody else listening, watching, do the same thing? Shoot.
If you were to introduce yourself to me without mentioning your occupation,
Yeah.
where you're from, your ethnicity, your nationality, where you grew up,
Yeah.
what your hobbies are,
Yes.
what your religion is, all these superficial markers that we use in our day-to-day, how would you describe yourself to me? How would you introduce yourself?
Wow. What a good question, Mamma mia.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna think. I am joy. I am love. I am someone who can see beyond what is, and I can see what could be for myself and for other people. I'm someone who has experienced a lot of difficulties so I could serve others and help others. And I feel very alive when I'm present with people and the things that I love doing.
That's a beautiful
That's
answer.
me.
See, and it's fun because it really forces us to like think about our essence.
Yes.
And not how we can categorize ourselves in the society we live in.
Yes.
Which is a beautiful thing. Yeah. And right, I'm now like getting to see you.
Yeah.
For your essence and your soul, and not what you're like, what your social tags are.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a really good question for you, for everybody here. If you, so we all have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is the auto program, right? If you could consciously reprogram your subconscious mind, let's say there's an AI that enables you to do that. What core beliefs, what core beliefs would you install? What would be the auto program? In other words, who would you be? Who would you like to be if you could choose, which you can? Perhaps if you, without thinking, if you would just give that, you know how you can give AI like a 30 seconds voice message? Like, this is how I would like to be. If I would have to keep the program simple, this would be my core beliefs, my core values. What would come up for you?
Oof. Okay. I'll give you a short backstory as to why that is that I'm going to say. I think I'm manually with a lot of labor right now trying to exactly like reprogram those like limiting beliefs that I have about I started this like fear list
Yes.
of everything that I simultaneously feel fear about and curiosity. And I put it on the list and I give myself a month to do it, or for bigger things to start planning it. And on this list are a bunch of things. And to reprogram my mind into jumping headfirst into these things and eliminating the like shortening the time in between me having the idea, curiosity, and fear about this thing and the time it takes to execute it. Because the time in between, that's where the scary part happens, because your mind and your subconscious has time to brew on all the scary thoughts about this one thing that you want to do. And I think I'm learning to shorten that time and to jump into it, especially when I feel both curiosity and fear at the same time. It's a great show of what you actually want to do and to get out of your comfort zone. And I think if I was to answer your question, it would be to create a more fearless version of myself that lives authentically in my self-expression and isn't afraid of exploring new stories of myself. Because we always create these stories and narratives about ourselves all the time. And I would love the ability to jump to a new story quicker than I do now. Because that's really fun, right? How easily do I allow myself to reinvent myself on a daily basis, right? Am I stuck in this like one version of Coralia that I have told myself that I am for the past 26 years? Or am I allowing myself to wake up tomorrow and like reinvent myself totally, right? The only reason for me not allowing myself to reinvent myself is because there's fear around stepping into someone new. So yeah, give me a program that allows me to reshape my narrative about myself quicker. Yeah, because it's so fun. It's so fun.
Beautiful exercise as well for those of you who want to go very deep. Write down the core beliefs, the core thoughts that you would want to have in that autopilot, right?
It's a good one.
And then write it down, and then how can you implement it on a daily basis and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. I had a monk sitting here on the last episode, and he gave me this mantra, may I be safe, peaceful, and healthy. And I repeat, like, if I would have a program for myself, I would want to be healthy. I want to be safe. I want to be peaceful. So it's really nice, because at the end of the day, as romantic as it sounds, we can choose who we want to be, right? I didn't know you. You could have You could have told me you are from Venezuela.
You wouldn't believe me.
Yeah, you know, like whatever. Sure, you could have acted however you wanted to act in that moment. You could have been very quiet. You could have been very outgoing. You could have been whoever you want to be. And I think that's very powerful.
It is. But I think we forget that we have the ability to just be whoever we want to be.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Because we have this program. That's why it's so powerful to reprogram. And one of the ways it's journaling.
For sure.
So I'm very grateful. It's also a fun activity, as you can tell, to do with your friends.
I'll send you one.
You send me one.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
for sure.
And
I can't give you this one. It's the only one I have with me.
Yeah, and I would know some dark secrets, I guess. Beautiful. I guess you can order it online.
Yes, you can order it online, and we're trying to roll it out to a bunch of bookstores in the next few months. So
Beautiful.
Yeah, it'll be available in person as well, but I think the easiest is just to order it online.
Yeah, order it online. Play it with your friends at, for example, dinner conversation is beautiful way.
I've had people use it as almost like a card game, right? They just ask each other the questions from the book.
Yeah, what I do, or what I did a couple times when I want to get to know someone, is I bring questions or conversation cards.
Nice.
And I just ask questions, and that is a beautiful, beautiful way. 365 designed questions to deepen. Thank you so much for being here, for being such a sunshine. I don't know, did I tell you, like, I feel somehow, you remind me of myself a lot. Oh. Did I tell you?
No.
I didn't tell you. Okay, no, you remind me of myself, because you have so much, you come into a room and you have this sunshine energy.
Well, thank you.
I think even when you are, when you have stress, there is this positivity, like a sunshine that comes into the room. You were so kind. The first moment, you had no idea who I was, and you were just kind and sweet, and I really value that. So thank you for that smile. Big smile.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having a great space to open up in. You did a wonderful job.
Felt like we spoke for 5 minutes. We had 10 minutes over time. We spoke for 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, time doesn't exist. It's made up. Yeah. It is really wild. I could go for another 20 minutes, but I think at some point they want to go home here. And they will... You have to pee? Yes. That is the number one thing I hear here.
Because it's like 1 hour, like almost 2 hours, right?
Yeah. I always wonder at Joe Rogan podcast that are like 3.5 hours. Do they ever? I think sometimes they go pee, or they have like a bottle.
Yeah. Bottle. So rude.
A friend of mine actually built a company that they did exactly that. Yeah. Because anyways, just tell you nowadays, if you ask yourself the right questions, you can build a lot of interesting businesses with crazy things. But
True.
Yeah, I hope my biggest wish would be that people, after this episode, they ask themselves a bunch of questions. We gave them a lot of things to actually do, but don't just listen. Like really, unless you change, unless you do something you've never done before, it's all gonna be the same auto program, the same story. So
exactly. Maybe sit down this week, have like a Sunday journaling thing, re-listen to the questions in this episode, and actually dig through.
How about we give people the chance to take an entire day off this week?
Oh yes.
Phone off, social media off.
Don't even try and scroll when you wake up.
Saturday evening, you turn your phone off. You do that. Do you do?
I do.
Wonderful.
I have this little thing called Brick.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? I don't know. There's been like ads of it.
No.
Cut this away. But it's like a physical thing.
Yeah.
That you like scan.
Yeah.
It's a brick that I have on my fridge. I put it anywhere. It's magnetic.
Yeah.
It's like a physical thing. So you need to go up to it. And then you can like unbrick your phone.
Oh.
It's really good. Because like my dumbass always goes like, if I have like these like limitations on my phone, it's so easy. I will always like skip and like go around it.
This Saturday, turn your phone off in the evening. Sunday, you spend time with the questions we asked you. Spend some time in nature. You'll see it's so blissful. But it's describing how rose smells. You have to smell yourself.
Exactly.
Leah, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you so much,
And
Axel.
until very soon. Ciao. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, just as a little gift from our side, from my team, because you stayed until the end of this episode. 30 days of free Fire Within membership. I created the Fire Within membership to give you guys access to the tools that have changed my life, the lives of my clients, and give you also access to a community of like-minded people. We have guided breathwork sessions, guided meditations, guided visualization practices, really tools that enable you to create the life that you deserve and that you want. And it's one of the best things we have ever created. Hundreds of people, live events, sessions that will blow your mind. 30 days for free. You will find the link in the description. Thank you so much, and until next time.